Good morning. Welcome everyone once again to the Spanish Breakfast Show. I'm Skatz, and in today's show, we're continuing the Moving to Spain countdown with my expert guest, Chris from Upsticks in Malaga. Today is part 3, which is all about what to do and what to expect when you have about 3 months to go before you move. Chris will be covering applying for the Non Lucrative Visa and going through the checklist of what you need to do. And I'll be talking about what it's like for someone at this end who's emigrating and what you need to do there. And also from mine and Liz's perspective of a couple, one of whom is an EU citizen and the other who isn't. So welcome to U2 Spain. Cue the music. Hey, so as usual, of course, you can ask questions live right now or anytime during the show in the chat box over there or down there, depending on which device you have. Or if you're not watching live, in the comments below, anytime afterwards, you can always watch this back. And if you need to watch this back again, we have time codes that I'll be putting in later on today or over the next couple of days. And you can click on any part of the video that you want so that you can get the information that you need. Either way, you will get your answers. And Liz is with us together. Let's see what she's under today. Good morning. She's under U2 aromatherapy. Good morning, Liz. And you can ask her too if you want, because she's moving with me, of course. And one final thing, of course, before we begin, as usual, you can support this channel by finding the link below to our merchandise page where you can get things like this t-shirt or a hoodie or a t-shirt or a mug or a phone case or anything like that. They come in loads of different colors. So without further ado, let's meet our guest for the day. It's Chris from Upsticks. Hola, Chris.
Hola, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Very well. The sun has returned to Malaga after some rain.
Excellent. Yeah, it looks nice and bright over there. It's very, very misty over here.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. So it's lovely weather again today. I love September. It's a nice time of the year.
Brilliant. Yes, and we'll be over there in about 2 weeks' time. So very much looking forward to that. It'll be October by then.
Yeah, it'd be nice weather. October's great. October's it's funny. I got married in October. I remember that one for next month, and the weather was absolutely brilliant. I remember that. I just remember anniversary coming up. But yeah, it was brilliant.
Yes.
It's always about 20 degrees, 25 degrees, and it's nice. You might get the odd rainy day, but it's fresh as well. So just ready for when you come over.
Brilliant. Good. I'm glad you've prepared it for me. So good. So let's get straight on. 2 weeks ago, we talked about what to do when you have 6 months to go. And that was all about making the plans, writing everything down, drawing the timeline of events and documents, and generally lining everything up, ready to push the big red button to get things moving. And now we're talking about 3 months to go, and this is when you push the big red button. And this 3 months is a bit of a magic number, isn't it? Because it's 3 months or 90 days is the 9180 rule. It's the 3 months you have to apply for residency if you want to stay in Spain once you get there. And there's the 3 month shelf life of lots of the documents that you need for your visa application. But above all, this 3 months is the time when you should really start your application, make your visa appointment at your nearest Spanish embassy if you need a visa. So yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So this is exactly what we said. It's hitting the big red button now. So because the documents have to be dated within 90 days when you're at your appointment. Though we did have, digressing, confirmation from Manchester, written confirmation via email that if they issued an appointment during the period that the documents were in date and the appointment was after that date, that they would accept them.
Excellent.
So that's that. We haven't had that from Edinburgh, and as we know, London's having its own problems at the moment. But you certainly now at this point you want to be planning the date for your appointment and requesting an appointment for that date. So you might find 3 months in advance might be just a little bit too much. Edinburgh and Manchester at the moment are sort of honouring if you request your appointment 2 months in advance, or honouring the dates that you're requesting. So there was a bit of a silence there from Manchester during summer, during the August period. We had 5 weeks we didn't hear anything, and they're back on board now, and we suddenly got an influx of appointments, and they're honouring the dates as long as you do it a couple of months before.
Brilliant.
So that's great news.
Great.
People in that area.
It is, yeah. So let's start with the checklist of documents that you need. Is that like 12 or 13 checklist? I forget how many it is.
Yeah, so we'll start from so our checklist. We always have the so we start with the application forms first. So they're included in the 12. But the application forms, evidently, if you've got somebody doing them for you, well now they need to be asking you for details to complete them. So they're going to need all sorts of details. Like even things like your previous names, your parents' names, the address where you're going to be moving to in Spain, etc., etc. So there's the 3 forms that they have to fill out. So you've got what they call the general visa form. You've got the model, if we're talking about non-lucrative visa, EX01, which is the application form specific to that visa, and also the very important tax form, which means you can pay when you go. So if you're doing them yourself, well, really you need to start looking at that now, because they can be quite complicated to do. Especially I'd say the national visa form, if you're doing it yourself. And somebody was speaking to the other day came up with this, and they're trying to fill out every part of the form, and evidently a lot of it doesn't correspond to you, because it's a general form for everybody. So definitely get cracking with that. At this point, if you need documents to be legalized, so actually no, let's jump to the medical document. So you really need to be talking to somebody about your medical insurance at this point, because that can take a while to get put in place. You want to make sure there's not going to be any problems there as well. So you really need to start your research. Really needs to have started talking to companies. And for the non-lucrative visas, we know you have to have a medical, what we call medical letter, medical certificate, stating that you've got no exportable diseases. There's templates on the consulate website. You need to get that. That's something you really need to do first, along with ordering your criminal records check, because once you receive those, they have to be sent off for legalization, the apostille, which you have experience with. How long did it take you?
My marriage certificate, let's see, it took 2 or 3 weeks, I think, to get the marriage certificate back, and then it took another 2 or 3, I think, to get the apostille, and that was from Ireland over to the UK. So it is quite quick. I mean, I did mine a bit early, actually, because the date on my marriage certificate copy is the 7th of August, and so that was a little bit too early. But so we've kind of got until the 7th of November to get that sorted. But like you've told me before, it's not necessarily as tight as that.
No. I mean, that's great. That is, because basically that was a 6-week turnaround. Yeah. So that gives you. So if you're starting to do that now, then the reason we took about 3 months, because you've got this general 6-week turnaround of documents, and then you've got that buffer period as well, just in case things like the samples, like the medical certificate, for example, when you send that off to be legalized with the apostille, if you've used a local doctor, if they've never done one before or never had a document of theirs legalized before, their signature may not be registered, which then causes a delay, because then the government have to get hold of them, which they generally do via email. It's definitely worth checking with your doctor, if you're using a local doctor, if they know if their signature has been registered, and if not, please keep an eye out for an email, because we've had it at times where doctors have sat on emails for a while and it's delayed the process. Yeah. So it's normally okay. You've got that buffer for the 90 days, but definitely that's something you need to look at. So you've got that. Once what you need to start doing as well is planning to get your translations. So evidently, when you go to your appointment, you'll need translations. So if you are speaking to a translator, or someone's doing it on your behalf, then they really need to talk to them and say, we are going to have these documents expected on this date, and once the appointment's confirmed, this is when we're going to need documents, so translated by. So we always sort of have a plan in place and speak to the person and say, this is the receipt date, and this is the expected date of the appointment. So do you think, is that good enough for you? Because they have a lot of work at the moment, and yeah. So all those plans have to start happening now. You come into a bit of a more intricate timeline before your appointment.
And just to confirm with everyone, the order that you get things done is you get a copy of the document, like the marriage certificate, whatever it is you need. Then it's the apostille, and then it's the translation.
That's correct. Yeah. So that's the order. You know, if you're the translations have to come right at the end, and they can be done fairly quickly. But again, it's always good to start talking to people now, even though it's 3 months in advance. Yeah. So that's that.
We've got a question, actually. Can I just drop in a question at this point, because we've got Eddie. Let's see. He's asking, do you need confirmation of a place to live, i.e. rental contract, before you apply for a visa, or do you need a visa before you can get a rental contract? Great show, by the way. Thanks, Eddie.
A great question. No, you don't. So quite often, and this actually relates to something I was going to talk to you about, the 90 days. That's actually really good. You don't. We, for example, have used office address on many occasions as the address in Spain. But what happens here, and it's happened a couple of times for us, is obviously people, when they get over, if they haven't got any sort of permanent accommodation organised, or don't have their own property, if you've used a different address, like for example an office address or something like that, or a friend's address, when you come to register your visa, once it's been approved at the police station at Stangeria, they want proof of where you're going to live. Now that proof is in the form of a padrón certificate, which I think you've got a show about. I think we spoke about that. So it's quite hard to get a padrón certificate if you haven't got a permanent place to live, or a contract of over 6 months, or your own house. So this is a problem. And there's another thing I wanted us to talk about as well, which is coming up as the visas people are arriving, is that evidently there's some people want to travel for the first year and don't want to have permanent accommodation. But the police are insisting that you do prove where you're going to live, and that proof has to be in the form of this document. So yeah, you have to bear that in mind. But no, the answer to your question is no. You can use a correspondence address in Spain. You don't have to have it in Spain.
Brilliant. And a little advert for you here, Chris. This is Barry from Unitech, one of our regular watchers. Am I correct in thinking that Upsticks are able to handle all of the paperwork requirements needed to move to Spain? Personally, having had a business for over 20 years, I hate paperwork. Me too. Yes, we can. Yeah, drop us a line, Barry. No problem. Right, and actually, I can put this up. There we go. I've just upsticks.es. There's the address if you didn't know that. Bit of a plug there for you.
Thank you. Cool. Excellent. Yeah. So that's we need to start planning forward as well. Yeah. And talking about planning forward, is another thing that's come up recently, is that people who are moving to Spain but have had a previous interest in Spain, so maybe you've been a regular traveller to Spain, and for some reason you've got an NIE number. Again, I think you've got a video on that, so you can add that on the bottom. Yeah. Or somebody's bought a property here in Spain, or somebody who's already a connection here in Spain had reason to sign on the tax office, which you would do when you buy a property. Even as a non-resident or a resident, if you do something fiscally in Spain, you need an NIE number and you sign. Okay, they're not having any problems when they're getting their visas and they're coming over and they're coming to register vehicles, they're coming to bring their personal household goods, etc., etc. But what we are having problems with is people who are getting their visas and then they're sending on, for example, we had one this week, they're sending on their goods to Spain, and the customs authorities are asking for them to be registered with the tax authorities, but they don't actually have their document from the police yet to be able to do that. So the timings have to be quite right. So we did manage to get one done through Antonio, who you had on the show, just using the NIE number on the visa itself, and it was managed to be registered remotely, and then the goods came in, so that was fine. But yeah, it's always, you've got to look at those things as well. Start preparing as soon as you hit the ground. You're going to start looking at getting your NIE registered with the tax authorities, so you can carry on doing what you need to do.
And we'll look closely at that on the show in 2 weeks' time, which is actually, I should let everybody know, 2 weeks' time, this is going to be a recorded show. This is the first time we'll have done a semi-live show. You'll still be able to watch it live at exactly the same time. And I might still be on the chat, and maybe even Chris will still be on the chat, so that we can answer questions as it's going along. But we have to record it before, because I'm going to be on a ferry heading for Spain at the time. So, and I don't think I can do a live show from a ferry, because I might be throwing up at the time. So hopefully not.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, but there we go. So it looks like you've got a customer in Eddie, so he's going to get in touch with you.
Excellent.
So brilliant. So yes, what else?
Well, and we're just moving on. So we did the healthcare, we spoke about ACRO, we spoke about the application forms. The other big thing, evidently, is when you're going to your appointment, you need to prove how much money you've got, or how you earn your money. If you're depending on the time of the year where you're at, when you're having your appointment, if you've already got your P60 in place, for example, which proves your annual income from a pension, then you can start going ahead. That doesn't need to be legalized, but it does need to be translated. So that can be translated at this point before your appointment. What you don't want to do at the moment is go and get, if you're using bank statements to prove how much money you've got in the bank. We always recommend that you have those stamped from the bank, which is, I know, a very, very, very hard thing to do at times in the UK. But in Spain, they do love a good stamp. Don't want to do those yet. That comes a bit further, closer to the appointment. Always as close to the appointment as possible. Make sure you get the most recent statement from the bank as possible. But you can start the process of actually asking the bank if they've got a stamp, because we've had some people which have struggled to get stamps from their high street branch, and evidently now with COVID, you have to book appointments and stuff like that.
Do I need stamps from on mine? That's a good question. From my Irish bank, not for my no.
No, you'll be fine. You're okay. Your end. It's more the consulates. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah.
So what are the documents then?
So that's it. So we've done application forms. We've done which 1, 2, 3. We've done the healthcare, and we've done our healthcare certificate, your ACRO, birth and marriage certificates, which we spoke about. If a good thing, we're talking about getting duplicates of birth and marriage certificates. So I think we spoke the other day regarding the consulates, which is starting. Manchester had a small problem with them keeping original documents, which they shouldn't do. They shouldn't keep original documents, but it might be a good idea now. And I know it's extra expense, but if you do have marriage certificates and birth certificates that you'd like to keep, original ones, you can request duplicates and then have the duplicates legalized and translated and take them with you to the appointment. I think it's a good idea to do that, because once they do keep documents, it's very hard to get them back. And also, for example, we had a client the other day who got married in 1968, I think it was, and they really wanted to keep their original marriage certificates. They've got a duplicate, evidently, and so that's something that you need to be doing now. And we spoke about the income requirements. Yeah, so we're more or less there with what you need to start getting organised before your appointment now. And it's
actually making the appointment as well, as that's about the right time to do it.
Yes,
it takes a bit of time to get one.
It does. So about now, you want to start sending your email requesting the appointment for your expected appointment date. And again, Manchester and Edinburgh and other consulates around the world are honouring those dates at the moment. The only one that isn't is London. So pull your hair out.
So if you need one from London, you should have done it about 6 months ago, by the way it's going at the moment.
Right. We try. It's a nightmare, and they basically have said that London have said if you have received your automated response to your request, then it has been received and you go on a list, and we will at some point give appointments, but we just don't know when. So, but we are trying our very best to work out what they're going to do with this crisis that they're suffering at the moment. So yeah, that's London.
Here's an interesting couple of questions that are about the same thing, actually. Let's put up this one first. I'll share this document. This is one that came in from one of the Facebook groups. There it is. This is from Connie Batchelor. She's self-employed, and so is her husband. There are enough savings in the bank to satisfy the 32,000 odd for several years, which is actually more like 35, Connie. But the issue is, how do I show that we are no longer working? We're both self-employed, and she'll have to hand her business over and just take a cut for the next 5 years. She's just taking a break. And there was also somebody
that's actually
else.
Quite tough. It depends if you're going to Manchester. It depends where she lives. If you're taking a break, I'm assuming that you'd have some sort of form from HMRC that you're no longer registered or will, because you're coming to Spain, so you'll be paying tax in Spain. So whatever communication you've had with HMRC to let them know, you'd have to take that with you. But in Manchester at the moment, they're not requesting that, but they are in Edinburgh. In Edinburgh, they're requesting proof you're definitely not working P45s, etc., etc. So whatever you have from HMRC, depending on your situation, to prove that you're no longer going to be operating, whether you're taking a break or just actually getting rid of your business, is what you'd need to prove you're no longer working.
Yeah, that's the same question from Lorraine Sullivan. I just thought I'd pop that up on the screen there. So yeah, it's some kind of so it's not like the P60 form. That's the employer one, isn't it?
Yeah,
sorry, the P45 rather.
P45 is the employer one.
Yeah. So I know that in terms of what I'm doing over here in Ireland, I'll be deregistered at some point from the revenue here once I've sent all my paperwork in when I leave. So, but that's not something I could do in advance if I was still going to be working up until the point I left. So I'm not sure how that works on the timescale. If you're, you need to show that your self-employment has ended. Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is again timescale. It's unfortunately you have to commit to that for your appointment. And there is, as long as you've got your cards in a row, shouldn't be any problem with getting the visa. But yeah, people are a bit hesitant to commit to something like that before the appointment, and then worried that they're not going to get the visa. But unfortunately, it is what it is. There is. I'll ask Mariano, our import agent, because he always requests a document for, and this relates actually to people who are coming over when registering vehicles and goods, worldly shekels, to not pay tax. So evidently, if you're changing your residence, you don't have to pay tax, import duty and tax on your personal items. And he always requests what we call a bacha from HMRC, the signing off, just to prove that person is no longer registered to pay tax in the UK. So evidently, it's quite hard to do that if you're before your appointment, but that's what you need.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah.
Any other comments and documents? We're rapidly approaching your 10 o'clock, and I know you have somewhere to be, or 11 o'clock for you.
Yeah, no. So I think we've covered everything in terms of what you need and the processes. I think what you need to do also now, you've got to go get your photos, go and get some nice passport style photos. Evidently. Make sure your passport. Now, we still advise people to take one colour copy of every single page of your passport. We tell people to take that, and quite often they're constant to look at them and go, we don't need it. But I think it's better to have it than not, because the one day you don't take it, guaranteed they'll ask for it.
Yeah.
And the reason they ask for that is because they want to see where you've been travelling, the stamps in your passport, etc., etc. So still a good idea. So you can start getting that done, and also take a photocopy of every single thing that you are taking with you to your appointment. So as your documents start coming back, it's a good idea to grab a photocopy and always have the original on top and a photocopy below. Another good tip, use paper clips, don't use staples. And for official translations, which funny enough, I've got one here, you'll see that they are stapled in the top corner there. Believe it or not, if you remove that staple, it defaces the document. So don't remove staples.
No.
But yes, don't remove staples from translation to do photocopies. Right,
that's a very, very good tip. That would be terrible if your whole application fell through because of a staple.
It's yeah, I found out many moons ago when I was doing an NIE for somebody with a power of attorney, and I had removed the staples from the notary document, scanned it, took it with me, and got in big trouble for doing it.
Oh,
I got away with
it. Good for you. I'm sure you could argue it through. Oh, Lorraine has another question. This is the 790 document. Is that the Modelo 790? The document page is duplicated. Do we need to complete that in twice?
So yes, it's there's 3 pages. The 790 has 3 pages. You have basically, you'll see it's at the bottom. There's 2 pages that look duplicated, and the last page is blank. Okay, and you'll see that there's a page right at the bottom right hand corner. You'll see there's a page, a copy for you, a copy for the interested party, and a copy for the bank. Okay, that's how it says it. That's how it says it on it. So it says you take all 3. They all have to be filled out, and then when you go to your appointment, because they would essentially class the application different to the place where you pay, okay, even though it's in the same building, then what will happen is when you pay it, a copy will go in with your application, a copy stays with them as a receipt, and you receive a stamped copy back to prove that you've paid it.
Brilliant. That's very clear.
And that's the exception, is that if you're doing any operation in Spain, now, for example, a withdrawal agreement TIE or an NIE or something like that. Actually, no, NIE, no, because you can't do it for the bank machine without an NIE number. But you could actually use bank machines here in Spain to pay that. You don't have to go to the counter anymore. And there's a few banks that offer that service, BBVA being one of them. In that instance, all you have to do is print the first 2 pages, because you're not actually leaving a copy in the bank. You're just getting an electronic receipt.
Right.
So,
great. I have a question here from Sharon. She says, "Hi, Chris. Michael is still working. Is that your partner, Sharon? Yeah. Is he going to be a problem, as he wasn't going to stop work presumably till he got a visa? And can you give me a ring?" There you go.
I will do. Yes, I was supposed to call you yesterday, Sharon, so I'll give you a ring. No, Sharon's going to London, so she'll be fine in that sense. But if you're going to Edinburgh, you would have to have a P45. Right,
there you go then. That's answered your question, Sharon. So, well, I think I'll let you go now then, Chris, because it's coming up to your time. What I'm going to do, everybody stick around, because what I'm going to do is go through the checklist of things, as I said, from this end of what people who are emigrating need to be doing at 3 months. So, yeah, stay with me until the end. And so, brilliant. It's been a pleasure as usual, Chris. I'll speak to you during the week, because we're going to be recording the next episode.
See you on Tuesday, I think it was.
I think it was, yeah. It's in the diary anyway. Brilliant. You take care.
Later.
Bye. Cheers. For now.
Bye.
Oh, there we go. So it's time to go through the checklist of the things that Liz and I have been doing on the lead up to, obviously we've only got 2 weeks to go now, so I'm thinking back to the 3 months time. And as some of you know, I'm an EU citizen and Liz is a UK citizen, but most of the things on this list will be the same things as everybody else should have on their list of things to do. If you have other things to add, then do add them in the comments or the chat. Don't forget to click on the like button as well. So The things that we did was obviously set off this process with Upsticks and started gathering all of the documents that that we needed for our particular application. Obviously, we didn't need a visa, but we were getting things ready for the residency application, which is what you do when you arrive in Spain. Other things we were doing, we were giving notice to our landlord. I mean, that's probably a little bit early. Some of you only need a month's notice. Some of you might need 2 months' notice, depending on how long a contract you've got. Perhaps it's time to give a loose date. Be nice to your landlord and landlady and give them a bit more opportunity to get somebody into the house, renting it off when you leave. And it might mean that you've got people coming and looking around your property while you've got a big pile of boxes there. But there you go. Fortunately, we didn't have to do that because our landlord isn't renting off our property straight away. So, so yes, if you're selling your house, on the other hand, you should be coming into the final stages of that, because you don't want to be handing over the keys on the day that you leave. I wouldn't want to do that. I would want to be organising a handover date and a finalisation date a week or two in advance, just in case anything goes wrong, in case a document gets stuck at the solicitors, or any kind of thing gets in the way. And even if it means you're staying in a hotel for a couple of weeks, or staying in a B&B or something like that, or staying with relatives, there are ways of getting around these kind of things. We'd organised our removals quite a long time before this, but most removals companies work on this 2 or 3 months basis. They don't work too far ahead. So it is around about this, within this 3-month timescale, that you can make your first contact with them. Excuse me, if you haven't already. Ours is well done in advance, and we've been talking to them all the way through just to check on their timescale. Your packing, I talked about this 2 weeks ago, actually, the packing, because we started our packing more than 6 months ago. But this is the time to make a schedule for your packing, and also your cleaning. Don't forget that to leave your house in a good state when you leave, because if you want a reference for future properties that you're renting or buying when you're in Spain, you need to look good. You need to have a good reference. So you will be very surprised how much there is to do and how long it takes. If you leave it too late, then you'll be rushing around like a headless chicken. I'd say if you've got a room, or a part of a room, or parts of lots of rooms where you can stack up your boxes, that really, really helps. And also make sure you've labeled the box as well on the top and on all 4 sides with contents and with which room they need to go in when you get there. That will save you days and days and days of searching and moving boxes about, and it'll mean that when you get there, you can relax a little bit more. Let's see if there's some conversation going on the chat there. Let's see. Thanks for the valuable information. Narputs, it's an interesting name. I received my visa 2 weeks ago from the San Francisco consulate. Oh, we have some American viewers. They didn't require any translations and proceeded my visa in 6 weeks. That's brilliant to know. Thank you. Oh, and also it was done by mail. Didn't need an appointment. Wow. I was surprised by how easy it was. I'm very surprised too. Sounds like the process is inconsistent across the globe. Well, yes, I would say inconsistency is a theme with appointments. Hope to be in Spain by mid-October. Super excited. Whereabouts in Spain are you moving to? Mid-October. We're going to be there too. And if we are intending to keep some properties over in the UK for rental income, and so would still have to pay UK tax, does that mean we will be liable for tax on possessions taken to Spain? Good question. We need an accountant, a gestor, to answer that one. Unless there's anybody on the chat that can answer, leave that with us, Barry. Maybe that's something that you can ask Chris when you finally make the call to him, and he can get his gestor, or we can get our gestor. It's exactly the same person. That's Antonio. Anyway, back to my list. It's time to sell things. It's time to give away things. It's time to do a car boot or a yard sale or whatever. It's time to give people presents, give away, divest yourself of all of the things that you don't need. It'll make you feel great, and it'll also make you feel great giving people presents of all of the things that you don't need but are still actually really nice. And, sell all of that furniture. You can get furniture in Spain, and if you go to these flea markets, I don't know what they call them in Spain, but then you can buy furniture extremely cheaply. It depends what kind of taste you have in furniture. If you have really posh brand new taste, then well, you're going to take your chances there. Travel arrangements. You and your pets need to get there. We were I don't know. I was going to show a photograph on here. I've put it on the Facebook page. If you go into the links below, join the Facebook group. I put up some photographs yesterday of our car, because we're going to drive over and take the ferry. And what we did yesterday was we took out the seats. It's a 7-seater. We took out the back 5 seats and we put them in the dump, and took a load of stuff as well that we had hanging around, all of the heavy stuff that we couldn't fit in our bins here, and divested the car of all of its seats except for the 2 front ones, and we've cleaned that out, and we've put in fixed in the dog cage behind our 2 driving seats. So, and this is something we organized a long time ago, but we've been really nervous about it, because we're thinking, what happens, once you've taken the seats out of the car, you now know that you can't get it MOT'd or NCT'd or whatever it's called, IVA'd over in Spain. There's no way we can import that car because we've taken the seats out and we've changed it. So it's committed us to something. And there's all kinds of these commitments that you make along the way. And one of those, like we talked about earlier, it's committing to giving up the job before you actually go to the appointment. So there we go, just checking that there's no more comments coming. And make sure you've done your vet's appointment for rabies jab, and so you can get your pet passport. If you're driving, you don't need to drive, you need to drive. If you're driving, make sure you've got your hotels and your bed and breakfast booked, sort out your route, and also making contingencies. There's got to be a plan B just in case. Just think ahead and imagine what you'll need on the way, and maybe what can go wrong, and what you need to have in the car or in the plane or whatever transport you're taking. And what's Barry saying? He saw our photographs on Facebook. I'd have stuck the seats on eBay to pay for the beers on the ferry. A very good idea, Barry. I've offered it around to some friends, but nobody wanted them. Even the garage where we had them unbolted said, no thanks. We've got loads of used cars out the back, and I don't think anybody will want them. Probably because we're in Kerry, which is right at the bottom left-hand corner of Ireland. We're so far away from anybody that there's not many people will travel over to this corner, down to the coast, just to grab some car seats that might or might not fit. So there you go. So back to the list. It's time to check your passport. This is your last chance to check your passport, whether it's in date. And so I'm going to show you Liz's reply to this. Liz says, LMAO. We don't have the time to get that sorted, Barry, sadly, but we've been saving, and we've got some money back for flights we were taking, which didn't happen. Yes, we had a holiday booked in 2020, and that got cancelled. So that's going to pay for the wine, the Vino Tinto. I don't think I'm going to be drinking on the boat. I may not. Although we're taking travel sickness tablets. I don't know if you can drink on travel sickness tablets. We need to read the box, Liz. Okay, back to the list. Utility bills. Is it time to give notice on utilities? Don't forget things like your broadband, also any landline phones, mobile phones. There's the electricity bills, your gas bill, water bill, council tax, if that still exists. I don't know what it's called now in the UK. We don't have that in Ireland. Those are the big main bills. If you're self-employed, this again, I think we touched on this a little bit earlier. This is time to let the tax man know, let your accountant know, sort out what you need to do at the end of the process so that you deregister. If you're employed, of course, maybe you should tell your employer at this stage exactly what's going on. And there we go. So pensions, talk to your private pension company or advisor, or check with your accountant if they know what you're doing with your state pension. Check what you have to do when you move. There's all kinds of numbers that you need to change and addresses you need to change on various different things, like direct debits. There's not just the utility bills. And there's things like, just think about Netflix or Amazon Prime, all of those kind of things, eBay. You've got all of those kind of addresses to change. Some of the things you might have to do two-step verifications on. Don't forget that if you're doing that through a phone number, that when you get to Spain and you change over your phone number to a Spanish number, don't do that immediately until you've changed all of the two-step notification phone numbers to the correct number, because otherwise you'll be locked out of all of those various different things. I keep on thinking of all of these things as I go on. You're tying up all of the loose ends. Also, you might have life insurance in the country you're living in. Because of Brexit, that life insurance might not be valid in Spain. So check up with the life insurance company. They may already have set up an address in Europe so that they can continue, but ask them. And at the very least, you'll have to change the address. And at the very most, you'll have to cancel that policy and start a new one in Spain and ask for quotations. Your bank account. And for example, does that need to stay open for a bit? If you're self-employed and just like us, we're moving in the middle of the year, but the Irish tax year goes to the end of December. My tax return can't be done until the end of the year, till after the end of the year. So I can't really close off the bank account until that's all been done, because if we have to pay tax, then that has to be open so that the taxman can take the money out. And also make sure you've got all of the phone numbers that you can phone from abroad, because there are various numbers of all of these different companies, the utility companies. They might not be dialable on your new mobile phone number in Spain. So make sure you've got those numbers sorted in advance. I like to have a great big checklist of all of the important numbers on a sheet of paper, and also on the applications that you can get on your computer or on your phone, because they're all kept on the cloud, so you can have access to them. Even once you've changed your number, you've still got access to all of these numbers. And once you use these kind of applications, often if you write a phone number down, then it highlights it and you can just tap on that number and it will dial it for you, and you can get in touch with any of those companies. If you want to order your SIM card for your Spanish mobile account, then it's a good time to be researching which phone are you going to be using when you get over there. We've already chosen it, and we're getting our phone cards sent to an address in Spain so that we can pick them up on the day that we get there, and we'll have a Spanish phone number. So Barry has a question. Are we able to keep our UK bank account open permanently when we relocate? I would say that's possible. Check with your bank, Barry. I think that you can keep open a UK bank account. I know there are people who have their pensions, who are living in Spain permanently, and they have their pensions paid to a UK bank account. So I guess the answer to that is yes. But yeah, definitely check that with your bank manager. If you can see your bank manager these days, good luck with that. Health check, that's the next item on my list. Health check in your dentist. Have your last appointments. If you have a regular health check, if you have an underlying health condition, it might be a good idea just to have your final blood tests and get everything checked out so you're all up to date. And if you need any fillings, get them done before you go. Now, I've heard that Spanish dentists are actually cheaper than Irish dentists. So and I had to cancel my dentist appointment this week because I had a bit of a cold, and they have a notice on the door saying if you have any symptoms that could be COVID, then tell us in advance. So they said, don't come in for that, but book in again. And I haven't booked in again, and now I'm too busy, so I'm going to have to go to one in Spain. But no problem there. So I think that is all of my list. If anyone else has any other things that you think you should do in this last 3 months as you come up to your date of move, then do tell us in the comments below. And if you've got all of this good advice and you think this is all good for you, then subscribe, click on the bell, ting, and buy the t-shirt. And I think that is everything for now. Unless, Barry, do you have any more questions? Thanks for watching. Barry's always watching on his TV. He showed a picture of this great big TV that he watches in his living room. So I must be huge in your living room, and I'm tiny on my screen. Anyway, so that's nearly time up. I'm going to set ready for the end of the show. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any more questions, as I said, ask them in the comments below. And next week, of course, next week on the Spanish Breakfast Show, I'm going to be talking to Age in Spain. This is going to be, this is actually quite exciting because they are a free organization who do things for people who've moved over to Spain. And we'll be telling you all about the services that you can access there. And there's lots of things. We have lots of questions. So if you have other questions for that, then send them to us on the Facebook group. You can find the link to that. Join up on the Facebook group. We'd love to have you on there as well. And don't forget to check out the Liz and Skatz channel and U2 Yoga, where you can have free U2 yoga and meditation classes, and also U2 aromatherapy. Those are Liz's YouTube sites. And of course, the merchandise page. All of the links to those are in the video description below. There's a little mark like that, which if you click on that, it brings up the video description, and you can find all of these links. And you can also find the codes, the time codes of everything that we've talked about on this video, at least if you're watching this back in a day or two, once I've actually written out the time codes, because I'm not a time traveler. I can't do them yet. So that's all for this week. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for tuning in. It's been great to have you on the show, and I will see you. Peace and love. I will see you next week. Goodbye for now.